for as much as I have been buying more decks, I do still have the intent to go deeper with them. I did go into this year wanting it to be a depth year, and several of the decks that I've purchased since first visiting the States have been decks that I already owned, and I just found I was missing them, and they're ones that are go-tos enough that I don't regret for a second having an extra copy of them. But nonetheless, there are new ones obviously coming in, like the 2 Kickstarter ones that I showed you, and that White Light Oracle was new to me as well. Another new deck, it's like it's new, but it's kind of not new to me, only because it's part of a series. So the Seasons of the Witch Beltane Oracle. So yes, the Beltane cards are new to me, but I already had the Seasons of the Witch, Samhain, and Yule oracles, and so it's an automatic that I was going to get this. I am loving these cards. This is so pretty. Obviously, this does come in a different color than the previous 2, which were red and green respectively, and this is a nice like honey gold, and you've got the gold gilding on the edges, and just these lush images of nature and spring, growth and burgeoning abundance. Is just such a delight to have more of these cards in my collection, and feeling in the Beltane feels, and with new life emerging on the trees and seeing the blossoms and the birds, I ended up acquiring a deck that I'd been considering for quite some time and really seemed to evoke the same just sort of like lushness and just wildness and beauty of nature that I was getting from this deck, and I thought might make a nice pairing for it. And it does. For Haxa Tarot. Fae energy is not something that I work with a lot, but I do have a few decks with Fae feels, if not images. But this one I just went so back and forth on, but then I got MJ Cullinane's Urban Crow Oracle a while back, and that is just awesome. And I loved the feel of the cardstock. I loved the artwork. It was just even more impressive in person than what you see on screen. And I don't have the Urban Crow Oracle. I've heard, or Tarot. I don't have the Crow Tarot. Sorry. I have the Urban Crow Oracle. I don't have the Crow Tarot by the same artist, but I am really happy to be getting acquainted with her work through the Urban Crow Oracle and now this tarot, which I think will be obvious and beautiful pairings with each other once the two can unite. But I think that also, in the meantime, the Forhaxa and the Beltane Oracle pair really nicely together. Totally different art styles, but the color palette works together really nicely, and the content of the images and the content of the messages have been speaking together really nicely. And the Forhaxa Tarot is the same dimension, just about, maybe a little smaller than the Beltane Oracle. But they look nice together for being about the same size and dimensions, and That makes for a pretty spread as well. And with these, I have just so far been doing pulling an oracle card at the center and then pairing it with 2 tarot cards on either side. What the meanings of those 2 tarot cards would be depends. So the oracle is just like the central message, and then sometimes I do on the left, I'll do a let go, and then the right, I'll do lean in. So something to let go of, and then something to lean into. Maybe I'll do a within or a without, whatever sorts of pairings, if not dichotomies that come up like that, can be helpful to work with, and it just makes for a simple daily reading. So in May, I am finding this to be the main pairing that I am working with so far and will continue to work with through the month. And just to throw more in the mix, I, again, have been out of town without my full collection for 2 months now, and there were just certain decks that I was missing and really wanting to work with again. So including some of the ones that I've already shown for the doubles that I purchased, but then another one that I found myself really yearning for, given the circumstances within my family, was my Mysteries of Mary tarot deck. By, oh gosh, I'm not going to pronounce her name correctly. Hetien Grobler. So I have her Mysteries of Mary deck that I keep at my meditation altar, and I will draw a card from that after a meditation and put it on a stand in a sort of makeshift Mary shrine that I have. It's not anything formal. It's just a little area that I have set aside, and I'll have that there as a weekly message when I'm focusing on that. And so rather than get a double of that deck, if it's even available, that might even be sold out at this point. And up until recently, so was this Mysteries of the Black Madonna tarot deck, which was Hetien's follow-up to the Mysteries of Mary. But extra copies became available because there is a slight printing issue. There's just a slight ridge on the top and bottom of the cards. Doesn't faze me in the least. So I happily got a copy at a discounted price. It was still an expensive deck, which was what held me back from buying it in the first place. But being in the situation where I didn't have access to the other one, I thought my soul was really calling to work with Mary again, and especially this more shadowy side of Mary as I am, journeying through grief. And so I edged this. The edges were white, but I took a a golden marker and modified that to go with the backs. It's a lovely matte. It's a larger oracle size deck. When I first shuffled and pulled from it for a message that I needed to hear, specifically in relation to the grief I'm feeling over my dad, the card that I pulled was 5 of Holy Wells. The Holy Wells being the equivalent of the cups in this deck. So 5 of Cups, essentially. And in the beautiful guidebook, which, I mean, in my opinion, the money that you can pay for this deck, it's worth its weight in gold in these tomes that Hetien has compiled of all of these stories. It's tremendous, the value of these tales. The story she associates with the 5 of Holy Wells is Santa Maria of Tourelle de Foix, Black Madonna of Le Foix. And she relates how the Black Madonna of La Foi was discovered in a cave next to a powerful spring and the flowing Foi River. The sanctuary was built next to a clear flowing fountain. She goes on to speak of this Black Madonna's disproportionately large hand, which can be seen in the image, and what meaning that has been speculated to have. And so, as in the Mysteries of Mary tarot guidebook, after relating that specific story, then she speaks to how you interpret it in terms of your reading itself. This little altar that she has created, and if you haven't seen these decks, Mystery of Mary is similar, where, and I'll show more later, where she has created these little mini shrines and photographed them, and that becomes the image for each of the cards. So as she speaks to this one, this altar speaks of the power and potency of the heart to overcome all pain, loss, and sorrow. The red healing fire that lives in the holy waters of the heart of the Black Virgin has the capability to bring wholeness and resurrection to the grieving process. The healing has started and does so in hidden and mysterious ways. The seed will germinate and the weed and abundant crops will return to the seemingly infertile lands of your inner world. If I needed to hear any message the day that I pulled that, and pretty much every day since then. So, needless to say, this deck and I started off with a bang. And I love it. It is one I will use in the same way or similar way to how I've used the Mysteries of Mary, which is not in a full spread, but just as a single card draw. And you could see these altars, you know, they're kind of kitschy. It's fun, and there's a beauty in them as well. Absolutely. And they're just chock full of symbolic meaning. So you can go with what the guidebook says, but, you know, there's also so much to explore in each image on your own and see what jumps out at you and what meaning that might have for you. It can be an incredible exercise in intuition. And I have been pairing my Mysteries of Mary tarot deck at my altar with the Santos and Virgins oracle deck, which is photographic images that have been taken of different statues and paintings of Mary found all throughout Mexico, I believe, and maybe the southwestern United States. These actual renderings of Mary, whether in sculpture or it could be a fading painting on a wall or on tile, images found in graveyards, in churches, wherever. The creator, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but I will list it in the description below, as well as a link to her oracle cards. She has these photographs and there's no keywords that go with them, so it's purely intuitive. And those images captured in photography and being kind of kitschy in itself in a lot of ways, and old and faded and chipped, it complements these decks really well. And obviously corresponds with Mary. I don't have that oracle deck here with me, but I think that the Mysteries of the Black Madonna tarot deck is really powerful on its own. I think it can just stand alone, just a single card, however often or infrequently as you want to pull it. The guidebook is so substantial that it's something that you can just really sink into, sit with for a while. And like I said, I don't use this deck for larger spreads. But I did actually use it for the first time as part of a larger spread with the Forhaxa Tarot and this Beltane Oracle. And I found that their images correspond together nicely as well. However you'd want to lay them out and mix and match them. And again, they're all so like rich and lush in their depictions. Like there's a lot going on. And so I don't know, maybe it's too much going on for others using them, and would prefer something a bit starker and more simple to pair with a deck that has intricacy in its artwork. But for me, I don't know, I like all this stuff. And so there are definitely times I'm looking for that very clean, open spaciousness to give me room to breathe. But I think maybe it's because I'm at a point now where I'm like looking for signs in everything. Definitely looking to nature for them. There have been so many crows around my parents' yard that I have never known to be here. Like I said, this is my childhood home. This is where I was born and bred, and I have visited frequently ever since moving, and I have never seen crows in this yard until I came here in March. And so don't think for a second I'm not finding some meaning in that. But just other things out in nature and the world around me, and of course going within and trying to listen to my inner voice and any other divine guidance that may come through, or at least that I'm making myself very receptive to. I just find myself liking a card that has a lot going on in it, so I can just see where my eye falls. And I think between these three, the Beltane Oracle offers a bit of the open and spaciousness. So you can see there, it's just lighter. It's not as intricate as, say, these two. So I don't know, either or. If not working with all three of them together, I just think even just pairing the Black Madonna with Forhaxa, or just pairing it with Beltane could work, or like I said, just working with it on its own. So yeah, I would say then that, so I try to get myself organized here. If you could see around me, you'd see an absolute mess of cards and boxes and books. I like to pretend that I have it together, and I so do not. Especially these days. Oh my goodness, folks, my mind is mush. That's all I keep saying. I have just been like durr for the last 2 weeks. So I basically have to ask every person in my life, including you, dear viewer, have patience with me. Have patience with me. I will be back mentally. I will stabilize emotionally, all in good time. But as a kind of final note to wrap this all up, as I've just gone on this long ramble of the decks I was mainly working with in April, however sparsely, the new decks that have come into my collection since my last videos on them, and the decks that I am working with this May. Those decks are the Mysteries of the Black Madonna Tarot deck, the Forhaxa Tarot, and the Seasons of the Witch Beltane Oracle. I may grab at the other decks that I have here as I see fit, if it feels right for a certain reading, but I am predominantly looking to work with just these three for the remainder of this month to just get more of a focus. And as mentioned earlier, I'll undoubtedly be turning to my Somnia Tarot as well for grief work, which I think the Black Madonna Tarot is also going to assist me in a great deal. And I just feel like the abundance and beauty to be found in the Forhaxa and the Beltane oracles are going to, well, it's more than just the season and the burgeoning spring around me that's made me yearn for the Forhaxa and the Beltane oracle. I think that a large part of it is, as I do look to nature for different signs and just learn from it, it's that light and dark that is ever present in nature. You literally see the life and death cycle outside every day. And I have seen the end of one season and the beginning of another. Every leaf and blossom that's sprouting right now is a sign of the life that is renewed, that emerges from death, only for those leaves to eventually grow and darken in color and then change in color and fall to start the cycle all over again. And so all around, this cycle of life is ever present, and I am working to myself be present in acknowledging these truths, accepting them, and I am doing my best to live in flow with that and recognize the cycle of my life and those around me, and recognizing endings as beginnings and feeling more a part of the fabric that is nature, because we are all a part of that, and it's easy to feel separated from that. But the veins running through our bodies is not too dissimilar to the veins you see in a leaf. And I feel like the more I can feel melded into that and just a part of the whole, the more it helps me through this most trying time. And the lovely support of all of you who watch, and if you comment, sharing your kind words, that is all a tremendous help for me as well. So thank you to those who have reached out to me, whether here or elsewhere. It really means so much, and I feel grateful that this is a space where I'm feeling safe enough to share what I have here. And I hope to be back with more content before too long, of a more uplifting variety, hopefully. I expect that by the end of the month, or at least by sometime in June, I will be back in my usual stomping grounds in the UK, and with a bit more of a regular routine going for me. But in the meantime, thank you for being here. And what decks are you working with this month? Which ones did you work with last month? Do you like or loathe any of the ones that I've shared today? I'd like to hear about your experiences. So please, please, please do comment with your thoughts and insights and all that I can learn from. So thank you so much. Until next time. Bye.